everybody. Welcome back to another Tavern Talk. Tonight, I'm Vito.
Hooray!
That is Mel.
Hello, I'm Mel. That is
And
Vito.
we are going to be going over fighting on the same side. How DM versus player is not a viable thing, and your DM actually wants you to succeed and should want you to succeed a lot of the time. So, starting off, let's talk about when DMs and players, I wouldn't say butt heads, but have a disconnect. Starting off, character disconnect. You envision
Yeah.
your character a lot differently than some other people, and we actually had a talk about how I envisioned you doing combat. So, do you want to take that away, Mel, or do you have anything you want to start with?
Um, yeah, I think that one of the things that's like really important to keep in mind, I think, is like it can be difficult when you have like a different idea of like what your character's like arc is or hopes and dreams are, and like it can be difficult when that like doesn't match up between player and DM, obviously. And so I think it's like kind of like the topic of what we're gonna talk about is like it's important to be able to like communicate with each other and like find a common ground, because at the end of the day, if you're playing a character that like doesn't really fit into the setting, or whose like goals and aspirations don't really match up with like the story beats, um you're gonna have a lot of conflict, because suddenly it's like, oh, I can't do what it feels like it would be true to have my character do. Um, which can be a difficult position to be in, but it can also be a very difficult position to be in on the other side as the DM of like, my player character wants to do this thing and it really doesn't make sense with what's going on, and how much of it is my responsibility to like make that happen, and how much of it is like needing to be talked about. You know what I mean? So I think like I have this idea of D&D. Obviously, it's a game. We talked about this last night, but like I'm not the most tactical of thinkers. And so my understanding of I don't know if I should
No, keep
I'm
going,
gonna keep talking.
going. I had to just turn off my AC because it was creating a weird effect in the background for me.
Can you hear mine?
No, I can hear you. I can't hear your AC. My AC, I can hear it
Great.
in my own mic. It's the thing.
Oh, I hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because I'm like not a very tactical thinker, and that comes to like games in general, like I'm more of a button masher than I am like a real like strategic game player. Um so I have this understanding of D&D as like way more it's like about a balance of mechanics and storyline and roleplay, right? My understanding and the ways that I'm fulfilled by D&D lean far more in the like story roleplay arena. Um and so like that is really important for me to like have a collective understanding of like what the story is going to look like. Not necessarily like specifically like what the outcomes are going to be, but like what my character's story arc means in relation to like the world. Um I had a broader point that I was getting to, and I kind of lost it a little bit, but like um I think like in combat specifically, like I have a hard time realizing my character's like traits and abilities, just because I have a hard time like strategizing. So um you and I have had a lot of conversations about like story things and roleplay things, and have recently started talking a little bit about like combat things as well.
Right.
And so and I only think that that has made it better
I
to
would
like
agree
be
with
on the
that.
same page about, like what
It
I
does
can and
help a
should
lot.
do and what my role is. Yeah.
The best way I can explain it is, as weird as it sounds, you use the best analogy. You've been button mashing with Jude a lot. Like, you admitted to it. You were like, God, last night I literally just brute force every encounter. I just do what I need to do, highest damage I can get, and that's how I feel effective. And that's great. That's wonderful. But learning, like, strategic planning and all that, and, like, learning the character, at least for me, when I play video games, there's a difference between a character where I need to button mash and a character I can really complexly learn. Which is why one of my favorite characters in one of my new favorite games is, what's it called? Or, you know what? Better example. Playing Sekiro. There's a thing called, like, parrying and, like, frenzy parrying, basically, where you just keep hitting the parry button and you just go, ah, ah, because you're trying to time it. It's a rhythm game to, like, time when you parry. But if you just keep spamming the parry button, eventually it's gonna hit. But when you can get that perfect timing where you can just, it feels so much better.
Yeah, well, because, like, a bug. Yeah, because, like, I tend to, like, separate combat from story, which is not always, like, the best way to play the game. Like, you can tell so much of the story through combat. So, learning that only helps you engage more with the story. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it was like your, oh, sorry, you keep going.
No, it's okay. No, I didn't really have that much of a point following that. So what were you about to say?
I was gonna say, it's like, as weird as it sounds, I think one of the things that held you back is my constant complaining, as weird as that sounds, about old players and, like, players that want to, like, break the game or, like, do dumb shit. Where it's like, God, if you could just sit here and pick out what you need to do on your turn, that would make my job as a DM so much easier. And I wasn't complaining about you when I would say this. It would be like players that would sit there and be like, hey, can I shoot this arrow into another arrow so I can get around, like, the half cover that you have this guy in? And I'm like, you're going to shoot a second arrow to catch up to the first arrow. What? And it's like, it's one of those dumb things where I'm like, that's stupid. But I think we had to talk about this a while ago. I don't think we did it on a Tavern Talk, but you were like, yeah, this is why, like, when I attack people, I don't say that I'm attacking the head, because I feel like mechanically that's too busted. And I'm like,
yeah, I mean, I think it's like it's the kind of thing that you, like, mechanically it's busted. If you lead with, I'm gonna attack the throat, I'm gonna try and slit his throat.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's not, you can't lead with that.
No.
You have to, like, I'm gonna attack this person, and then depending on how well it goes, you can say, oh, this is what that means, right? Like, say you, like, I feel like we have, like, this idea of, like, oh, it's bad to, like, be specific, but it's like, no, you can be specific once you know what the outcome is.
Yeah.
Like, if I crit and I fucking kill someone, yeah, I'm gonna be like, and I slit his throat because he's dead now, and
he's dead.
that's, like, part of the story,
right?
But it's like, I don't know, I feel like people approach that question in a very, like, binary way. That's like, oh, you can't do that because it's busted. But it's like,
see, my thing
it's like,
is,
no,
I won't even say you
do
can't.
that. You just do it differently.
I wouldn't even say you can't attack the throat outright. You can't hit the throat outright most of the time.
You can go for it.
You can go for it.
You just might not get it.
You're gonna, like, I'm gonna slash in and slash towards his throat. And then if you don't kill him, I'm like, you slash just below his throat, he moves in such a way, and you catch him in the shoulder. So I still give you the area of, you know, collarbone up. It's just you're not getting the jugular, you know? Or if you injure him enough, you nick his chin, you get, like, the side of his neck, but you don't slice his head clean off.
It's one of those things that's, like, it's all about boundaries and, like, expectations, because, like, you know, I'm a firm believer that, you know, there's a table for everyone, and if you want to play at a table where, you know, you can feel like you're doing, like, min-maxy damage, like, there's gonna be people out there that, like, also want to do that with you, and that's great.
Oh yeah.
And, like, you know, inherently, my thing is, like, I feel like in a lot of conversations about D&D, it's, like, very binary. It's like, oh, you can't do that. Like, that's not allowed. But it's like, what is allowed? What does allowed mean in this
Oh.
context? It's a game where that you make up that you can like change any number of rules, you can do whatever you want. And so it's like talking like having like points like
It's
that only alienates more people from the game. It's like, no, you can find people that want to min-max and
Yeah.
dungeon crawl and, you know, farm monsters and whatever, right? Like, you can find those people. But
Yeah.
it becomes a problem when you're at a table that doesn't want to do that and you are not willing to compromise. And so like
Yes.
it's one of those things that's like, you know, what like and I feel like we have learned this. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, can we even call what we're playing D&D anymore? Because
Oh
like
Christ,
we're
no.
like we're like using nimble, and it's like the essence of the game is still there, but it's like all these different, and also like homebrewed
Oh
things.
yeah.
So it's like, what even is that? You know what I mean? But it's like you have to, and we have like evolved in that way all together.
I
You
think
know,
so.
like we have been like, oh, I'm thinking of like implementing this nimble thing, and we tried it and we liked it, and so we kept it. Or like, oh, I've been trying to do this thing and we tried it and we liked it, so we kept it. So it's like the basis of it all is that we did it together and we were all on the same page about it, and we are still like, you know, eyes wide open choosing to be at the table together
Yeah.
because that's the basis of it, right?
Oh,
I
it's
don't think you
amazing.
can play, you know, I mean, I would be hard crossed to find a table that like wouldn't be better with more communication, or like that like, you know, I don't know that you can really play D&D without
You really
trusting
can't.
the people that you're playing with, or like connecting deeply and communicating and being vulnerable, because like it's one of the things that I'm like, I think about sometimes, that because we have been playing Sparrows exclusively
Oh
virtually,
yes.
and we've had a lot of like really like intense like not even necessarily like romantically intimate, but like relation, like any like specifically in like any
Yeah.
kind of intimacy. We have like had a lot of like really intense moments that I'm like, would we have done that at that point if we were sitting at the table together in person? Because it's way scarier to be vulnerable with somebody when you're like looking at them in the face.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and so I don't know. It's like you need to be vulnerable to play D&D, and you need to communicate, and you need to trust people. And I just care a lot about this game, and I have a lot of strong feelings about communication, and like, you know, positive feelings about the communication that we've engaged in as a group and
I
with
gotta
each
say, I
other.
love
So
that, and I want to bounce off that whole at the in-person thing. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I'd be not a terrible DM in person, but I'd be picking up on a lot of like the playing with your hands things, because a lot of the time you see the upper half from like my chest upwards. Below
mm-hmm,
this point, I'm literally doing it right now because it keeps me engaged.
mm-hmm,
I literally fidget with my hands all the time as a DM. I'm doing things with my hands constantly to keep my hands busy. They need to constantly be moving. Now,
yeah.
is that a thing for me or is that just a thing in general? Sure. But I feel like if I see other people doing it or I can't do it, as weird as it sounds, I can't lock in enough. The other thing as a
I
DM
totally.
that I have a hard time with is when I'm seeing blank expressions. I'm not saying you gotta sit here like the whole time, but the scariest moment for me, and I'm glad Adrian told me, because I was like, God, I didn't think you were liking the Bloody Lion fight. He's like, no, I loved that. I was just so locked in because I knew I had to be. I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because your face was like emotionless for 90% of the session.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
like,
you know, it's all about accommodation, right? Like if you
right.
need to sit at the table playing with like a little fidget something whatever to be able to focus, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's great. And like I get that. I'm over here playing my little game like fully engaged with my ears because that's like what helps me focus. Um so it's like,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I definitely don't think that that would like make you a bad DM. Like I think that like
No. But I
it
think
would
it
just
would
take some
nerve wrack
adjustment.
me to see other people doing it. See, I know you're doing it off screen, and that's fine. But when I see it in person, there's a little alarm bell like, am I boring people? I've seen it happen at in-person tables I've ran before. The problem is I don't think it hits me as hard because, as weird as it sounds, when I run one-shots, I could give a shit, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
My one-shots are either made to run a concept that I like to see how it comes across in my style of DMing, or a mechanic I want to try out. No offense to anyone I've ran one-shots with, but I think Chris could attest to it too. A lot of my one-shots are very not underprepared, but underwhelming compared to my actual DMing for campaigns like Lions and Sparrows, to the point where I was talking with Chris after the first session of Lions, and he was like, dude. And I was like, I know. And he was like, dude. And I was like, I know, you're getting campaign treatment. See, I, as a DM, if you've ever seen those like memes of like girlfriend treatment versus wife treatment, that's me as a DM. You get either campaign treatment or one-shot treatment. You know?
Yeah.
If you're not a campaign player, you're not getting special treatment. I'm sorry. But
yeah.
I mean, the thing I do for my long-term campaign players too, I'm still working on them because, God, I haven't gotten around to it. But I work on a set of dice for each campaign you are with me for. Which means, with the new upcoming campaign, for the
hard
MSM
launch
thing, yeah, we're gonna be getting some new sets of dice, each of you, actually. So I'm learning a few new techniques. I have some things I want to try for Chris's dice compared to yours. You know, yours compared to Adrian's, Adrian's compared to Ellie's. So it's gonna be an interesting thing, in my opinion. And bouncing off that, going back to the whole we're on the same side thing, I want to root back to that witch fight. Because, to paint a picture, I'm sitting on my bed about 10 feet from me right now. You know, what was it? It was like, I think it was Saturday night before the fight. I was sitting there and I was like, man, I'm really excited for this fight. I hope it goes over well. I hope I make sure these mechanics work and Mel feels like she's, you know, interesting in this fight. And I get a text from Mel, hey, do you want to go over, like, strategy for this fight or something? Could we practice, please? Just please. Like, can we please like run lines or something? Like, basically like running.
It literally is running lines. It's true, yeah.
And it got to. I was like sitting there. I was like, oh my god, yes. I'm like, But then when I think back to it, I'm like, why haven't I done this sooner for Mel? Because like a lot of the time,
you know, it's also on me to reach out and ask for what I need. So
I would, but I would never fault you for not reaching out to me as a DM. You know, it's I don't know. I know it's a two-way street, but you know how hard-pressed I am to blame myself for or blame other people for something. You know?
Yeah, I feel that, yeah.
But
I mean, yeah.
But basically, we hopped in a call, and we did what Adrian did for me as a DM a long, long time ago, which is we created a method for planning Mel's combat. So what we did was we started off, and I asked her what were her goals in the combat. And Mel, in true Mel fashion, immediately goes to roleplay. She's sitting here, I want to be calm, I want to be cool, I want to be collected.
Okay, I'm an actor at heart.
I want to be, you know, I want to make sure I'm level-headed through this combat. I'm like, that's perfect. Okay, so we know characterization-wise. So now I can pick her brain. Okay, so if she's going to think about how she's going to act during the combat, how are we going to make that come out mechanically and through the fight itself? She wants to be calm, cool, collected. Okay. Overarching plan. We got to make a plan for her now. Staying calm, cool, collected. Thinking things through. So then we started building out, how are we staying calm? How are we, you know, what is the goal? My goal is to live. Okay, well, everyone's goal is to live when you fight. My goal is to make it so this person has to either run away or stay alive until Rafi gets to me. And then, do you remember where we went from there? Not because I'm forgetting, but you're a better storyteller than me sometimes, so.
I mean, let me pull up the actual cheat.
Notes, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, so it started with like, the role playing like stay centered, make it, and then whatever. And then it became like make intentional choices,
There it is.
which is something I struggle with,
Mm.
because I'm very much concerned with like what is like the right choice and like, pulling my weight in a fight. Um, which, it gets in the way oftentimes for me of like actually pulling my weight in a fight. Um, And so we started like with things like that, right? And then it became like, oh, like practical choices. Okay, we want to like try and steal the charms and stuff, um, and then like staying in close combat range and like specific like if I have one written down that's like to remind myself that like if the Zemelian braid is like in the ground and then I beat the thing, like I'm trying to keep her from being able to get it. So it like
Mhm.
became more and more like specific, which I
Right.
think was really helpful for me. And then from there we kind of like came up with like actual specific plans. So like what do I do on the first AP if I'm in range? What do I do on the first AP if I'm out of range?
Right.
And then going through like the nimble system and like giving me a sort of a checklist of things to pick from. Um because I think what Chris at one point tried to use my character sheet and like gave up and was like, "This is too much stuff. Like this is," and and to that I say, imagine how I feel. So, and to that I say,
Uh,
oh yeah,
waiter, my lobster is too buttery and my steak is too juicy.
it's like God, it's like, and I
I get what you're saying wholeheartedly, actually.
it was so helpful to have like a specific plan of like what do I do, and like maybe some people might say that that is, I don't know. I feel like some people might think that that's like cheating somehow, but that's just what I have to do to like
Hmm.
enjoy what I'm doing. I need to have my choices in front of me,
I
rather than
wouldn't
like
even view that as cheating. Because as a DM,
I
knowing
wouldn't
what you're
either, but I think
planning is a great strength for me. My biggest fear is,
yeah,
hey, can I try to do this? And then I gotta like think 20 steps ahead and be like, okay, is this gonna break my combat? And that's not a
yeah.
you thing so much as it is a trauma response. And I don't want to say trauma from Estrella, but Estrella was full of a bunch of what I would call min-max and munchkins. Those bastards right
Mm.
there. They would sit there, they'd take a small little rock, and they'd turn it into a boulder. Sorry, tangent. But
No, yeah, you
basically,
have to.
back on this topic, your DM's biggest fear is not being able to plan for what's coming next. It's not
Mm.
being able to keep the session interesting and make sure that like everything stays narratively tight for me at least. My whole
Hmm.
thing, my biggest fear is when I design a boss, I take weeks to get it done and the encounter falls flat because X, Y, or Z, I didn't plan for this. This happened, I screwed this up. That worries
Hmm.
me. So to have
Yeah.
Mel sit here and walk me through her thought process meant A, I didn't have to pull this punch or another punch or a punch like that. Because sometimes I'll pull certain punches because it's like, ooh, that's not good. We don't want Mel stunned for 6 rounds straight.
Well, because doing that is doing it that way is good because it means that I'm prepared for every outcome,
Yes.
and
And
so
on
you
top
don't
of
have
that,
to be like, "Is
mm,
she prepared for this?" You know.
mm-hmm, exactly. But on the flip side, too, I know what you're planning, so I can play into it better. You wanted her in your
Mhm.
melee range. You wanted her to sort of be there so you could steal charms off her. So I kept her moving in and out of your range, but I kept her in your range. Of course, I
Yeah.
still gave you the caveat you have to play her smart. Otherwise, if she doesn't feel safe walking into your range, then she won't stay there. Which is why some of
Yeah.
you who are min max and munchkins probably looked at the screen and yelled, Sentinel! Sentinel! every time she exited Jude's
I
range.
have Sentinel, and I was choosing not to use it. Let's be clear. Let me be clear.
Mm hmm. But
So,
there's a big thing about being on your player's side. And that's what a lot of new players don't get, which is why a lot of the TikToks I see and a lot of the Instagram reels and just jokes and memes online where it's like making my DM cry makes me so happy, or like doing this so my DM hates me. It's like that's a great tongue-in-cheek thing, but when a new player or like someone who's never played the game before sees that, it either turns someone off from the game who's really, really good, or it creates a person who thinks, oh, D&D is supposed to be me versus the DM, or me versus my
Yeah.
players. I'm supposed to make my DM miserable. It's like,
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I was going to introduce a new topic because the other aspect I think of this like communication topic, because it involves, you know, other players and also the DM. The other topic I wanted to bring up in along the same vein was like inter-party conflict.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because that is like, I feel like the DM plays kind of a unique role in inter-party conflict, because I mean Vito definitely played a unique role during our last session, where you are like in the middle, because you're like, okay, well, if my players are at each other's throats, maybe they're not really gonna get things done. You know, if my players hate each other, we're gonna have some trouble getting them to like really like wanting to do the same things, like being on the same page. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is like, okay, what new story beats can we hit because they're in conflict with each other? And you're kind of in this role of like, you're like, I'm instigating it because it's good for the story, but also you're like, you need to think about like the ramifications of it, and like maybe like, gently guiding it in certain directions.
Yes. See, with that,
Wait.
I will say I always had a plan to have the Conqueror invade you within either this session or the last session. So we opened it up last session, and hi, Adrian.
Hello.
Basically, the
We
Conqueror
are
and
streaming right
everything.
now. so you
What's
know.
up? But
Hello.
yeah. But yeah, I would say that I know how to motivate your characters because I've spent so much time with them. So I can
Mhm.
make them hate each other for a session because it just worked. Especially,
Yeah.
Mel was talking about how I was like, should I fuel the conflict immediately without a second doubt? I just started texting each of them when the other one would say something. And me personally, I wouldn't take that shit. I was texting Adrian some
You sound like the
heinous
both of
things
us?
to say to
You
you.
fucking asshole.
Me personally, I would not be taking that. It's like, oh, he's disrespecting your lead, Jude. And then, like, going back to Adrian, she'd say something about, like, our family. And then I'd text him, our family? Her brother's dead. What the fuck does she know about family? You know? Just going back and forth. And just, like, taking the little fans and going, fueling
Yeah.
that fire.
To be
And-
clear, Adrian, the topic that we were kind of talking about was DM player communication. This specific little subtopic is inter-party conflict.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, we've had a little bit of that.
yeah, we totally had a little bit of that.
Oh boy.
And it's like, it's one of those things that can, I feel like, make or break a game, because underneath you have to have the basis of like, me as a player, I trust both of you. Me as a person, right? Like, I trust you guys. I have faith in our relationships to each other. I know that like if we have these like conflict moments in game, that it doesn't relate to our real life feelings about each other.
Right.
And it can make everything so fucking juicy to like, you know, spend like 25 fucking minutes like screaming at each other in a rowboat on our way back to
Yeah, it was
Alright,
just that for
your
a
island.
long time.
I'm surprised somebody didn't tip the boat over, to be honest.
Oh boy.
But I'm curious like what you were thinking during that time. You know, like also both of you. I'm curious what you guys were like, what your
Adrian, you
thought
wanna go
processes
first?
were. during that moment.
Like Mel said, it's a lot of trust.
Yeah.
Trying to make sure that, hey, we are playing a game. So I just want to make that clear before I say anything crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot of trust. I think it's more so, the trust is more so knowing that the person that's sitting across from you, at least in the game, is fully immersed, and you have to be fully immersed as well, or else you don't get any enjoyment out of it. And I think that immersion has to be, of course, based in trust, but also knowing, like, we are playing a game for our mutual enjoyment, and it's basically us writing a story as it goes. So knowing what beats to hit and knowing what things to improv while you're arguing, it has to be theatrical, it has to be dramatic, it has to fall within the lines of what we're okay with. Most importantly, it needs to serve a story purpose.
Yes.
I think after everything that's been happening, especially with, everything in Rubia of just constantly, like, fight after fight, travel after travel, kind of been beating down, and this is the climax of everything that's been weighing down on our characters' shoulders.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that this is probably the biggest fight I've seen between Rafi and Jude as well. At least the one that I can remember. Yeah. To the point where I'm like, this is great. Because I remember Mel saying something to me after the Lefty fight. Or before the Lefty fight, actually.
Oh, right.
The one back in Kazan where he gave up where he gave up the blue blade originally to get Ida back. And I think it was either 1 or 2 sessions before that, she's like, God, I hope you don't pull punches, and, like, God, I really like inter-party conflict and, like, just those, like, screaming matches that you can have. It just, like, I like the conflict, and I won't make conflict for the sake of conflict, but it's just so nice to have that, like, that argument, that resolution. So I was thinking back to that the whole time I was listening to you two at it. I was like, oh my God, they're miffed. This is awesome. And to tie in another campaign, which was a very big gotcha moment for 2 players that we will see upcoming for a much larger campaign in the Age of Blossom. Chris and Ellie. That had to have been some
Can
of
I
the
just
best...
say,
yeah,
she is not a first-time player.
Oh my
she
God,
can't
no.
be. She's too good. She's too good.
It's not possible. She's lying. She's gotta be lying.
Does she have a background in, like, theater?
I think maybe. But the funniest part is her brother makes dice, I'm pretty sure.
We love you, Ellie.
Ellie, you are stellar. She's literally, I texted her about this campaign, and immediately I sent her the lore document. She's like, okay, I'm gonna read this. Can I help write a little bit of world lore so I can build myself into this better? And I'm like, yes. Because I remember that's what Adrian did for Rubia. And now we have one of the most intricate parts of the setting built out. And it's just...
Yeah, we've spawned campaigns from this writing.
Yes.
Literally spawned campaigns just from this writing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is another thing about communication, of knowing what we want as players, and the DM taking, okay, yeah, if you know what you want, help me give you what you want.
Exactly. Like, I remember I took that point you gave me yesterday for your character where you're like, oh, like shape-shifting, like wild shape. And I ran with it. Like, okay, how does he use wild shape? Why does he use wild shape? What is the end goal with that wild shape? And I actually finished your sheet for the next campaign, which I will be sending over shortly later tonight.
I did want to switch characters, though, Vito. I did want to talk to you about that.
Oh, don't say ostentatious P-words. I swear to fuck.
Yeah, actually,
I do have a sheet I'm going to send you.
Yeah, actually, Adrian and I were playing, we were kind of playing, like, a duo situation.
Have you ever seen that Akira meme? Every time ostentatious P-worms comes up, it's just, ostentatious, get out of my head, ding!
Hey, audience, hey, chat, let us know what you think of this idea.
Don't let us know. I don't want your input. You're not allowed.
No, you're into this now. What's our duo?
But in all
Like
seriousness,
ostentatious P worms
this
and
is why I
biblical.
love having you guys as
Yeah.
players, because for you guys, this would be a tongue-in-cheek joke. If I had the wrong players, ostentatious P worms would have already been statted, and someone would have tried to play that in a campaign where I'm like, this is a very serious campaign, I want to have very serious themes, and then they're sitting here like, oh, I got worms, and it's like,
Wait, you don't think ostentatious P worms would like
You think
fit
I'm
into
gonna
like,
play it as a
serious-
joke?
Yeah, like is biblical Judas a joke to you?
yes.
Is the Bible a joke to you?
The Bible.
On one hand, worm druid. On another hand, the New Testament. Just... It's enough, you know.
Oh. Oh my god. No, to like, I don't know, to get back on the topic that we were talking about, I think like during that whole moment, like it wasn't even, that was like 25 fucking minutes of us like
That
going
scene.
at each other.
Oh.
That scene, thank you. I was also trying, I was like, I feel like I have gotten to a point now. I feel like we have gotten to a point now where like we have kind of a sense of like what like the boundaries are of like, so it doesn't need to, we don't necessarily have to be like thinking in every moment like is what I'm about to say, because it's sort of natural at this point. We've played with each other for so long that we kind of,
We're an improv group.
familiar.
It's an improv group.
Yeah.
It's true, yeah. And so like it was really fun, you know, for the same reason as the lefty situation was fun, but this, you know, was like so many notches higher. To like it in the aftermath, like reflect on like, wow, I like really trust these people and I feel comfortable enough to, because like what is a story without conflict?
Yeah.
You know, and like, you know, for a long time all our conflict, recently at least, has been like Rafi and Jude against everybody. All these people that they're like encountering. Which is a great, you know, hero's journey kind of arc, whatever. But it's like, what actually is the story of this like relationship between them without conflict? You know, like they're not the same person. They don't have exactly the same goals. They like have been going through insane trauma ever since arriving to Rubia, and like all these moments.
It's a
of,
miracle
like,
they haven't crashed out yet.
that's what I'm saying. It's like all these moments of like we're almost getting what we want, but not really, and like, you know, it's
always
it's
twisted.
Like,
it's like a genie
it's
that twists
it
your
is.
words.
Like, and so like I not only do I think it was like necessary for the story, like I think they needed to have a moment like this, but also it gives us like, now we're opening up in this fucking fight for the first time in a really long time where, yeah, like, you know, when it comes down to it, Jude and Rafi are technically fighting on the same side, but like this is the first fight in a really long time where we're not really a united front against the enemies that we're about to face. Like, especially this witch fight that we just did, that was so like, we're doing two separate things, but we're so on the same team. This time around, it's gonna be like, you know, we're gonna have to be doing separate things. I have to figure out the shit with the Traveler, because if she sticks around for long enough and saps my magic, I'm fucking useless. Fuck all to all these other Karai soldiers that are around. Like, I have to deal with that. And you have your other like story driven reasons to be focusing on the Conqueror. Is that what it's called? So like it's such a, it makes me excited. I was thinking about it earlier. I was like, it's such a foil to the fight that we just had.
It's a really good juxtaposition of a fight that has literally been built for us to work together. Or like a fight that it's like, we're separated, but we need to make sure that both of us are okay. And now this is a fight that before, like 5 minutes before, we have never felt more alone in this campaign.
Yeah.
Our characters
Like,
just almost aren't on speaking terms.
Yeah.
And now we're thrown into the same situation that we've always been put into of like, you know, the odds are at stake. Everything's about to go down. But now we're not united.
Yeah.
We're not on the
And
same
so it's
wavelength.
like, what does that mean? You know, like, what does that mean for us? Like, there's so many other factors involved,
Yeah.
and we can't really rely on each other to be like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. I'm like,
Yeah.
It's such a
This fight is
compelling-
very important.
this fight is really important. We're
yeah.
on
pressure
diminished
to me.
resources. It's like we're on diminished resources and health. I mean, we rolled hit dice, but that's. Oh, I just realized I didn't level up.
Yeah,
you level
you guys did get a level.
I did. I
up.
leveled up.
You did? Okay, wait.
Good.
Fuck. Okay. I
Didn't
have
need
to-
that, by the way.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just really excited, and
Mm.
I think it's because like, yeah, like after that fight, I was like, or after last session. This is like another thing that we were talking about earlier, but like after that session, something that's like really important about, I think, like above the table relationships is like, after that fight, I was like, I know in my heart that we're fine, that we're still friends, but my brain doesn't really like, because D&D, like the emotions are real, like the story's
Yeah.
not real, but
Yeah.
the emotions are. And so like after that, I was like, you hate me and you want me dead. Like it was like, and if it was great to be able to like calm down from that, like with the knowledge of like, okay, actually it's fine. Okay, actually we're fine.
Yeah.
And also just being like, we're just like trying to tell a good story, and like
That's
don't know.
That's why we're all fighting on the same side.
Whoa, that's the
Okay.
name of the tavern
I
talk.
know.
Whoa.
Okay. So, I don't know about you guys. I want to get to fighting. So let's try and close this out quickly.
Well, anyways.
I can't hear you. What? Oop, eep, oop, adi beep, beep, do, do, eep. Adrian's
Yeah, hey, why don't
famous
we close
mic
it out?
problems.
There you go. Now we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. It was my mic. What a great segue.
Yeah. So
Let's
I do
play
want to get to
Dungeons
fighting.
and Dragons.
So before we get into that, I want to close this talk out asking you one question. What is your favorite thing for me? Because I like my ego stroked. But in all honesty, what is your I communicated with Vito and he came through story?
Let me think.
Does it have to be from this campaign?
It could be any campaign.
Killing Sammy.
That was so fucked up.
That was good.
Like,
Yeah.
to answer the question, killing my own character was really probably the height of what DMs and players do, where the DM can trust the player enough to literally allow them to die on their own hand, while also the player trusting the DM enough to move forward with a story that still really has awesome DM. Killing such a vital character, it's been in every scene. Still having that trust of, yeah, we keep moving at this.
Yeah.
Also, I might just
Totally.
give you a warning.
That's
Check
fine.
your connectivity before session, because you had a little bit of in and out there. We heard it, but...
Like we heard all of it, but
No.
it was like,
Alright. What about
Yeah,
you?
it's my mic, don't worry.
one, I think, and this, because this didn't quite work out in my favor, but I really liked what it did for the story.
Mhm.
When we were talking about Rubia, and I was like, I want to join a coven. Like, I want to like, I was like, I want to join a coven. I want to like,
Where did that go well?
build community. I was like, I want to build community with my fellow lady magic users. And then it was happening, and I was like, this is so awesome. I'm so excited. Wow. And then I was like, something seems off about this. And then something was very off about this, and I got drugged and tied to a tree. And then we had to like fight some pretty terrible eldritch horrors on the way out.
Oh,
And so, look, even though that didn't work out very well for me in the game, it was a moment of like, hell yeah, like I can express what I want to be part of the story, and it might not like, it might not be part of the story in the way it's like a genie wish, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not exactly what I was wishing for, but it was fucking awesome, and it was crazy, and it was like this like small little thing. Like I meant like offhandedly. I was like, I want to do this, but I wasn't intending it to be like a huge thing, right? And it
right.
became like, this bigger like involving a lot of different people and like understanding the like nuances of each character. Like it was just I really enjoyed it, and I thought that it was like it was nice to be heard. And yeah. So
As a DM, I love when you guys communicate stuff like that to me and you trust me enough where I can twist it like that. Because when you were saying, like, oh, I want to join a witch coven, I'm like, great. Now I know how to get them to follow that plot point. I'm like, perfect. I already had that planned. Now
He was like,
you're just gonna
"Suck
put
it
it
up."
here.
A coven. What
I
if we
already
made the
had
coven
of the Manananggal planned for like
an
3
abomination?
months. I planned the coven of the Manananggal to put it in perspective before we went back to school for spring. That's how
Oh, for the
long
spring.
running that plan was going.
Like Midnight Kings.
Yeah, during Midnight Kings. When I said I had Rubia statted, I was ready. I'm literally running on months done of prep, and I literally just went back and made edits. That's all I've done. This has all been prepped for a while, which is a scary
Yeah,
thing.
we're so fucking cooked.
Oh, this fight I've been prepping since before Rubia started.
Here we go.
But
It's a good time to close out. We gotta get
it
going.
is a good time to close out. Closing out, trust your DM, trust your players. Everyone is on the same side, and we are all fighting together to make an amazing story. Good night, everyone. Good night.
I need help